It's very difficult to explain to somebody who's not in perimenopause exactly what brain fog is and why it causes so many kind of issues, but also can be quite distressing because um, things that we take for granted are slightly less achievable for us. So brain fog, first and foremost, brain fog is a really common symptom of perimenopause. Okay. And we know perimenopause is the transitional period leading up to the menopause. They say transitional, but it's a good 10 years. But during this time, a woman's hormones begin to fluctuate, and this can seriously affect the brain's cognitive function. So the exact cause of of the brain fog isn't known, but it's most likely a combination of different factors. First and foremost, our estrogen levels are fluctuating and generally dropping, and estrogen does play a role in the brain, in the cognitive process. And so when it drops, it can lead to changes in brain function and memory and just kind of cognitive ability in general. There's also other factors that lead to the brain fog. So if you're getting disrupted sleep, do you remember, I don't, if you've had a child, then, or been around small children, the first few weeks when you couldn't remember if it was night or day because the sleep was so interrupted. For many of us in perimenopause, we go through this as well. So you might get up because you suddenly need a pee, or you might be overheating and having a night flash or night sweats and need to take off clothing or change clothing. I've done that before, woken up in the night and sweated through my pajamas. So I had to like give it a good change or change a sheet. I mean, depends on how severe they are. So you could wake up with heart palpitations as well. Heart palpitations, again, a very common symptom or a common thing that happens in perimenopause. So as I said, there are many reasons why you might. Even just age-related change, which I don't like to dwell on, but age-related changes sometimes cause issues as well. Just a general, not as good a function. But how does it manifest itself? That's the important thing. So I'm an academic person. I've studied a lot of psychology. I've studied a lot of education, but I also am a bit of a neek. Like, I like to learn new stuff. And I've realized that the last year or so, it's not slower to learn, but it's more difficult to retain new information. And that's a typical symptom of brain fog. Another thing that you might find is that you may forget where you're going with a sentence. So you start a sentence off and then it just trails off because you can't remember where you were going with it. The one that used to distress me before I realized it was a symptom of perimenopause was being no longer able to recall certain words. Like, you can, I don't know, you'll be sitting there and you'll just look at an orange and think, okay, it's not a satsuma, it's and just not be able to recall it. I have a plant on my windowsill that produces kumquats. Kumquats, really easy to remember. Orange, passed me by, couldn't recall it, although it's actually the color of the fruit itself. And I found that quite distressing. The inability to bring back certain words. So just as a side note, it is important to understand that thyroid disorders and a few other medical conditions can also be responsible for brain fog. So if you're not experiencing any other perimenopause symptoms, or it's a sudden onset, you may just need to go and rule anything else out with a medical professional. You may also find that you have difficulty concentrating or focusing, staying on task. Now, I'm ADHD at best, so staying on task when you already have issues staying on task can be quite the challenge. Remembering things as well. So I've always struggled my whole life to remember appointments and to be on time for things. And so I now put everything into my phone, into my calendar, and I have different alarms that go off when I'm supposed to remember, not even remember to leave, because by the time I'm supposed to leave, I'm already not ready. So I have an alarm that says you need to get ready for something, and then an alarm that tells me when to leave, because all these different things I do struggle with. Excuse me. Also fatigue. Perimenopause can cause with fatigue. We know that, but also trying to stay mentally alert. So if you have a job that requires you to be mentally very with it and very on it, and let's face it, a lot of us have been on it for quite a while now because we're in our late 40s, early 50s. We feel like we've just got to the point where we're finally adulting and we're bossing life, and being mentally alert when your brain fog kicks in is really tiring. So if you have a job that requires you to be mentally alert, you have to do certain things to make sure that other things such as sleep are not an issue. It has to become a massive priority for you. Also, we're less motivated to want to complete tasks, learn tasks, stay on track, because we have other issues going on, like the whole "you feel quite dead inside" symptom, which for me was an unusual one because I'm a passionate little bunny rabbit, and I found it really hard to just not care as much about things. Also, you may struggle with making decisions where you never had before. So it can make it difficult or challenging to solve problems. And you may just find that you're procrastinating or almost paralyzed when you're trying to think of solutions to problems because your brain just isn't going there at that particular time. So what can you do? Well, obviously, if what we know, that one of the biggest culprits of brain fog, she says ironically, brain fog is the reduction of estrogen in our bodies. Obviously, if you start taking HRT, you may well find that the symptoms ease themselves. If not, there are things that you can do. For example, programming things into your phone. But I also carry this bad boy with me everywhere. I have a planner and I just make notes all the time. So if I'm talking on the phone to somebody, because obviously I spend my entire life talking to women, either on Zoom calls or on phone calls. So if I'm talking to somebody, I have to make notes, whereas I still remember everybody's stories and I still remember everybody's circumstances and things like that. So that part of my memory hasn't been affected at all. So if I talk to you on the phone about something that you're going through and we have a one-on-one session on the phone, if you ask me 2 years later to recall that conversation, I will remember all the different parts of the story. What I can't remember is when I'm supposed to email someone something, or I said, okay, I'm going to send you a worksheet on something. I'm going to send you a video on something that I want you to watch. This will help where you're currently at. Those kind of to-do list type of items I struggle with. So I take my planner with me everywhere in order to try and remember the things that have to be done in a certain sequence. So planning for me is essential. I plan lots on a Sunday night, like I plan out the general week, and then the night before. So after this video, I will have finished work for the day. I'll close down my office to make sure it's all ready for the next day. And then I will sit for 5 minutes and plan the most important priorities for the next day, things that I need to do. And I'll look at the kind of logical order of things and plan them in, because I can still work to a schedule and a plan and timings really well, but I have to actually tell myself what I'm doing, if that makes sense. There are also things that you can do. There are some supplements that are shown that have a positive effect on our brain's general cognition, such as the omega-3s, fatty oils, those kind of things. But I think mainly it's knowing that this isn't, you're not going mad. This isn't onset dementia, because that was one of the things that genuinely scared me. I thought I was losing my brain cognition in general. It's a memory, it's a cognitive processing that's caused by lowering estrogen levels and other factors. And as I said, if you start on HRT, which you can talk to your healthcare professional about, that may ease the symptoms, but just generally making sure that you're well rested, you write things down, you brain dump even. So if you've got a lot of things on your mind that you're struggling to, that you feel like your brain's really full, if you brain dump on a regular basis, you will find that you just clean out the corners a little bit, and that can really, really help as well. So you're okay. It's not my favorite symptom of perimenopause, I'm not going to lie. I found it really quite stressful until I knew what it was, and knowledge is always power. So now knowing what it is and learning skills that help me, I find it less distressing. Still not in love with it, but I'm now learning to deal with it, and that's my wish for you, is just that it's nothing. Although it's not pleasant, there's nothing more sinister going on. It's just that you are gonna just not feel quite like yourself in some respects, but I promise you it's not the end of the world, and it doesn't last forever. Okay. I will put the link below to my 60 symptoms of perimenopause planner checklist if you want to know about that. I'm also going to shortly be releasing a perimenopause journal that can really help you keep on track, including boosting your memory and what you can do to just stay on top of things in general, like to-do lists and stuff. I have a lifestyle brand. It comes from this company, which is Kate Women Lifestyle. So I have a waiting list for the journal. So if you're interested in the perimenopause journal when it comes out, I will put the link below. You can just pop yourself onto the waiting list. And if you'd like to know anything more about my perimenopause workshops, I'll put that link as well. Any questions, please comment below. I'm really keen to, basically a perimenopause warrior at this point, because there's so little information out there, and considering it affects 51% of the population, we need to keep the conversation going. Take care, and I'm going to speak to you soon. Bye.